right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Elevating with Marcia and Mike. This is Marcia Hawkins, your host, along with Mike Athos. Today, we're going to be talking about how to energize your employees, your workforce. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Marsha, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, living the dream here. Living the dream. So, yeah, we thought this would be a good topic to talk about today, given, post COVID, trying to get everybody re-engaged and back in the game. And let's talk about a little bit. Let's back it up a little. Let's talk about what do you think is the number one or, maybe the top five reasons why people kind of get complacent at work and just not feeling the love when they either jump on their computers in the morning if they're working from home or they show up at the office. What do you think is the number one, maybe the top five reasons why people just don't feel the energy right now?
It's a great question because I do think that it is a problem. I think that there's a huge workforce out there that people are they've kind of slid into this not vacation mode, but just kind of producing at a subpar level or at a substandard level. And it's not just one industry or I think it's across the board, across. I mean, everyone is seeing this where coming out of COVID, people got very used to being able to just kind of sit behind their desk, or maybe even like I saw an ad recently about those things that keep your mouse moving, and so it makes your employer think that you're actually working. And I think
Oh
there's
gosh.
so much of that stuff going on right now in the world where and you look at what's going on with Doge and sending the five things you did last week, and it shouldn't be hard to come up with the five bullet points of what you did last week. I can think of what are the five bullet points I did in the last hour. I mean that's just how
Yeah.
I operate, right? And I know you do the same thing, Marcia, but I think that overall our society has just gotten to the point where people are I don't want to say lazy, but it's almost like they're lazy. I mean, there's not this burning motivation to go out and have massive productivity. And from my perspective, I've always looked at if I know what the end goal is, if I know what I'm striving for, then I can back into it and I can work through it, and that's how I game plan everything. I think a lot of people are just kind of in this mentality of they can jump on their computer, they can work remotely, and they can do the bare minimum to get that paycheck to come through. And that's not that's not going to drive business forward. That's not going to drive productivity forward or anything like that. And a lot of what I've done over the last 14, 15 years has been mobilizing sales forces and sales teams and how do you get people moving and how do you get people motivated. And I think that a lot of it starts with communication. Communication is a big thing. If you're working together collectively on your team goal or where you're looking to go, I think if everyone's thinking in that direction and working towards that direction, that there's a lot of strength in a team pushing forward in one direction. So communication's big. But one thing that you and I were just talking about before the show, Marcia, was getting people communicating and we were talking about having a Zoom meeting with some of our internal team and talking about this is where we're seeing success, and this is what's happening, this is how we're going about it, and these are things that you can duplicate on your own. And so to me, I think a lot of it comes from leading from the front as a leader within your organization, whether that is me going out and if I'm selling life insurance, I'm going out and booking a bunch of appointments and selling life insurance. Or if I'm selling health insurance, doing the same thing, or doing our payroll optimization program. I booked several meetings with new companies this week, and so I can talk about the payroll optimization programs that we're presenting and implementing, and where we're finding success and where we're not. So that it's a lot of, I think, just over communicating to overcome this laziness factor or this lack of productivity factor. What do you think, Marcia? I mean, I feel as if we're in this world where people just aren't doing what they need to do. What are some things
Oh,
that you're seeing
100%.
on your end? Because your business is similar, but a little bit different than mine. So
Yeah, well, like we collaborate, on the employee maximization program, if you will, and a couple of other things that we collaborate on, but we both have other businesses that we run. But 100%, I think that I think social media is playing a part in it. I think
Yeah.
people just cannot seem to get off. I know there's many companies that you can't even get on social media through your work computer. But if their phone's sitting there, they're just going to jump on their phone. I think it's a real problem. I'm being
Yeah.
honest. I think it really is a problem on multiple layers. I think you have the layer of people are on social media and they not looking, their life is not mirroring what they think other people's lives are doing, so the boredom kicks in, and or they look at their life and think, oh, I don't have an exciting job like that, or this, I think people's perception of what their life should be versus what it is, it really comes down to them, and people are just not willing to do the heavy lifting to have the life they want, and I think that's a problem. I
Yeah.
think people are just very complacent. As much as I love the internet, I have a love-hate relationship with it because I think it has bred a culture of lazy is alive and well. And that's not a dig, but have you ever gone into a business and you see a standout employee and you think, gosh, oh my gosh, if this company had five of them, five of, this whatever
Yeah.
person, their business would be so much better. It's really hard to find those people, and I always am
I think
quick.
it's like 1 out of 5 that is like that.
Right, and I'm always quick to say, wow, if like a server, for example, if we have exceptional service at a restaurant or something, I always point it out to them, like, if you can duplicate this in anything that you do the rest of your life, you can't help but be successful. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. I would say, thank your parents for me for raising a well-adjusted, nice person who understands the value of the minute that they're in, and I really mean that. I don't think people value their time. I think that's probably like really the undercurrent of what the problem is. I don't think people value their own time. I don't think anyone looks at that, the sand going through the bottle and looking at it going,
Sure.
but it is the reality. None of us are getting out of this alive. Every day that once it's over, you will never, ever, ever get that day back. And have you ever spent time where you thought, oh, like I can remember, being in a conversation with someone going, oh my God, I am never going to be able to get this half hour back of my
Oh, yeah.
life.
Yep.
Yeah, many times, I know. But if you look at it and you equate it, have you ever scrolled on social media and thought, oh my God, why did I do that? I don't need that.
Y
Get
you
off,
know
you know?
Yeah, you know what's crazy about that? So on, I'm an iPhone user, like I think a vast majority of people are. But you can set your screen time for your social apps, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but I
Yeah.
found myself falling into this trap of like I open up my phone and my thumb automatically goes to Instagram or automatically goes to Facebook or X or whatever it is, and it's such a horrible habit because it distracts me from why did I open my phone in the first place? It was probably to make a phone call or send a text or do something from a communication standpoint. But I was naturally just through the power of habit when I found myself going to all these social sites that even in my phone I have them labeled as social not working. Like I'm very aware that like social media is not helping me progress forward. But what I did recently was I was able to put in a limit on my social media time. So, and it's funny to see the days that I hit that limit, and it's more for me to just understand where I'm at with what I'm doing. But being able to set that time break of if I spend an hour, a half hour, or whatever it is, if I get an alert that says your time is up, I can obviously override it if I'm doing something work related on those sites. But at the same time, you'd be shocked at how fast you hit those numbers or hit those metrics of you spent X amount of time playing on these apps doing absolutely nothing. I mean, you're looking at what is someone that you went to middle school doing with their vacation? It has no bearing on what your day is whatsoever. And they're always presenting their best life forward on social media, which leads you to think, oh, what am I not achieving? And that's not the case either. So, um, you're
I
right,
think that breeds a little bit of mild depression in people. I
totally.
think it has them gravitating back because they're, and people, I say it all the time. Some of the things that people post, I don't know why people think there's value in that, but whatever. We're all guilty of doing it. But it is true. Like if I know I'm getting ready to go on a Zoom and I've answered my emails and I don't have any calls, And now all of a sudden you've got a little window of time. And what are you doing? You're going on Facebook, going on Instagram. And I really try to limit myself. Now, I both of us for work, it's a double-edged sword because you do need to go on it for work, and I understand that. But I think if people could limit themselves to 10 minutes in the morning, maybe 10 minutes at night, you would be shocked at the level of accomplishment that you will experience in one day by just putting the phone away.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people shut their I don't have my notifications turned on, so I'm not getting bombarded with all of this garbage. I shut all the notifications off, and I check my email when I need to, but that constant roll of all I don't need it. People's phones are dinging all the time. I don't even have my ringer on. I have it on vibrate. So it's not I don't want to be programmed that I hear a noise and I've got to respond to my phone.
Yeah, it's that
So
Pavlovian, response that I mean, you hear the ding and you gotta run to it, and,
so
I
there's multiple layers to that. There
yeah,
really are. And I really think that we have to start kind of deprogramming ourselves from that if we're going to get back on track, if you will. And I don't, as a boss, you don't really have that ability to say, you can't do this and you can't do that. I mean, you do to a certain extent, but once you're out of once you're out of eyesight with these people, you don't necessarily have that ability to do that. And I know in talking with other employers, they say social media is a huge, huge problem,
yeah,
and it's consuming their time. And the other thing I kind of want to focus on, is again, you kind of touched on it. What kind of culture are you creating for people when they come to work? You've got to set the example. Like I will wash a toilet, I will clean, I will vacuum, I will never ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do. And I always tell people, you do not work for me, you work with me. We are a team. And I really try to create that culture within my own organization so that people know that I'm not, I always say I'm the person that pays the bills. I'm the one that has all the stress. I
yeah.
want you to look forward to coming to work. I want you to love what you do, and if you don't love what you do, you really need to find out what you want to do so you can look forward to doing that. Because I believe people who love what they do and work at a for a company that you know um, develops that culture. I think it's a win-win situation, but it's hard, and when you're trying to run a business, there's a lot of stuff that you know moving parts into running a business, and sometimes it's hard to keep your head in the game. It is.
Yeah, well, again, I think it all boils down to you got to have a definitive purpose. You got to have a burning desire to do what you're doing, and if you don't, I agree with you. I think you need to look inside yourself and figure out what it is that you're truly passionate about. Because at the end of the day, life is too short to go into a work environment and sit there and scroll through Facebook all day. Like I can think of nothing more detrimental for my mental health than doing that. So identify what it is that makes you tick and run from there. It's just
Yeah, if you're getting Sunday around 3 o'clock, if you work Monday through Friday, and
yeah,
you're starting to get that angst of having to go back to work the next day, and you just, getting all sort people say it's true, it's real. 3 o'clock on a Sunday, they can
sure.
start to feel the dread come on that they have to go back to work the next day. And, they're counting, if you're in there just really counting the hours each day to get out of there, I definitely would say it's time to, self-reflection and try to figure out what you really want to do, because there's so much opportunity out there for people. And, we do a lot of business consulting. One of my favorite things to do is when we work with a CEO or a CFO and show them ways that they can maximize um, their their payroll and their employees, and the benefits that go into it for the employees and the benefits that go in it's goes into it for them. It's a win-win situation. So I love doing that, because a lot of times, just making some minor tweaks to your payroll can have a profound impact not only on the company but on the employee.
Yeah. No, it's great to add value to these businesses, and I think there's so many different services that we can offer at the end of the day. Payroll optimization and health benefit optimization is just
Mhm,
one way, but I mean, there's merchant services, there's SEO, there's I mean, you name it. We have a lot of arrows in our quiver, and so
mhm,
there's a great value there to business owners, to CFOs, to people that are looking to move the needle.
mhm,
So that's something that gets me excited, and so I don't know that having that energy on a daily basis, that's where it comes from, is doing something that we're excited about. So
absolutely.
so I think that if you have people that are not looking they're not showing that same excitement, maybe
Mhm,
pull them aside as the manager or the owner or whatever, and have that conversation. Be like, is this really where you want to be? And it's okay if it's not a fit. That's okay too. Learning to
mhm,
be able to optimize your employees is really a,
mhm.
a good thing. So I'd much rather have someone that's gung ho about being there and wants to move forward compared to they're just a bump on the log and they want to collect a paycheck.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we offer the business services, but I think more importantly, we want to see a CFO, CEO, owner, whatever you want to call them, a business owner. We want to see them get re-energized within their business again. And a lot of the services that we offer do just that. I mean, the payroll efficiency program is just one of them, but it's great because I think if a company is busy and they're doing well, the employees are being paid well. There's benefits in it for them, and there's benefits in it for the owner. It's a win-win situation. But you can always tell. How many times have you walked into a business and had two thoughts? A, how the hell are they making it? And
Yeah.
B, wow. I'll give you one quick example. My husband and I like this particular restaurant, and we went there when a woman owned it, and we used to go in, and they were always just so nice and would communicate, and the chef was just always come over and ask you how your food was, and it very small, intimate restaurant, and we love it. We loved it. Somewhere along the line, the chef decided to buy the restaurant. The owner, the woman, decided to sell it, and she was financing it for him, and it was like someone had flipped a switch, and we went in there, and the whole environment had changed, not in a good way. The chef all of a sudden was the bill payer. He was the chef. He was the scheduler. He was, inventory, ordering
Uh,
supplies,
yeah.
smoking the meat out back. Yeah, and you could see the personality change in him. And one night we left, and he was commenting, and I don't think he could hear that he was talking about another customer in the restaurant, and I could hear him bashing this person, and I thought, this is not a good look. This is really not a good look. And
Sure.
we never went back. And I remember running into the former owner who had financed him at another restaurant. She was just bartending there one night. And I said to her something about not going there. And she said, why? And I told her what happened. She goes, oh, that's not good. That is not good. And that was pre-COVID, and we never went back. And ironically, I'm meeting a friend there next week for dinner. So it'll be interesting to see,
Find out.
yeah,
Yeah.
find out. But my point is that, when I think, owners, need to understand what the consumer, patient, client perception is of their business, and that's kind of one perspective that I like to give when I meet with a client, is just say, I don't know if you know this or not, but I come into your restaurant, or I come into your business, and this is kind of what's going on. And I need to check myself sometimes with the businesses I own, to make sure that the way it's being perceived is the perception I want out there, which is an inviting, client, customer, caring, business, versus just trying to hit that bottom line. I think when owners just look at the bottom line, and everything else is kind of ancillary to them, they've really missed the mark, because any every dollar you are ever going to make is now in the checkbook of somebody else's checkbook.
Yeah.
You really have to look at it that way. And so if someone's going to walk into your business, and the money, or their credit card or whatever is going to put money into your bank account, you really have to respect that relationship and understand it really is a two-way street. And I think people sometimes forget that. And if the employees don't feel that and understand that that transaction is what pays their paycheck, I really think it's time to sit down and retool the whole thing, because otherwise you're
Yeah.
missing the whole point.
Yeah, well, it's so funny. Like I was talking with my wife the other day, and she was talking about. Um, I'm not going to get into too many details about this, but she has employees that will say certain things to the owners of the businesses that they work for. So the employees are talking to the owners, and I think it's almost like the employees aren't thinking about what's the end goal here. Like what is the owner trying to get out of it? And so when you have people that are stuck kind of in their bubble. They're not thinking globally about what's the big time impact here. What's the end goal? That's a tough deal to go with because they're gonna not act in the best interest
Mhm,
of what that business needs to move forward. But at the same time, one thing that you were talking about that chef and the restaurant owner, and then once the
mhm,
chef bought that restaurant, then he had all these additional responsibilities.
mhm,
Sometimes keeping the main thing for people is a really good idea. So if that chef
mhm,
is great at cooking food and prepping food and running that kitchen, maybe that's what their best interest would be to do, or that's what their best role is. And so having someone to come in and manage that business
mhm,
alleviates a lot of that burden to them. And so I think that's one way to really energize your workforce is make sure that people are doing the jobs that make the most amount of sense for them. Just like if you have an
mhm,
executive, why are they doing admin work? It doesn't make
mhm,
sense. Like you need to have
mhm,
executives doing executive work. You need to have admins doing admin work. Having clearly defined roles of what people are doing.
mhm,
And I think a lot of times what I've seen is companies are trying to downsize and make everyone do everything. Um,
mhm,
and that's a challenge too. It's like you don't want to be a jack of all trades. You want to be a master of whatever your trade is and move forward from there. So
mhm,
I think looking at what the end goal is globally within the organization, and then
mhm.
figuring out are your employees in the best position to succeed is a real big deal.
But
So
have that hard conversation with your employees too, and
yeah,
just say, you're the face of the business when I'm not here. Whatever you're projecting out to the potential customer, client, or patient is going to impact the bottom line, which is going to impact your paycheck. So it really, it's kind of the elephant in the room, I think. And again, I don't want to keep going back to COVID, but COVID had kind of changed the whole work dynamic. And I think if I, looking at my own business, that's really kind of where I want to, always be on top of everything is what does that look like? What does the other faces of my business that are potentially bringing clients to me, what does that look like? And if it doesn't look good, then I need to address that.
yeah,
Luckily, I don't have that problem now, but there was a time I did. And you do need to look at that. And I think that I think sometimes we just get, myopic behavior when it comes to what the bottom line is, what the end result is, but they're kind of forgetting that the end result really there's a journey there, and you got to make sure the moving parts are in place, the right people are in place, or you're just always going to be chasing your tail. So,
yeah, absolutely.
all right, well, how do they get a hold of you, Mike?
Yeah, so two ways to get a hold of me. My cell phone is 703-309-5543. And you can always visit my website, which is bluewavefinancial.com, and you can reach out to me there.
Yep, MarciaHawkinsAgency.com, 413-374-2100. I would be willing to bet there's not a business service we would not have a solution for your business, and we'd love to get a call from somebody and talk with them and see what we can do for them on multiple levels. Thanks for tuning in for another edition of Elevating with Marcia and Mike. We'll be back next week with another show. Make it a great week.